Hey, what is up, everyone? So, Season 13 was released last week, and honestly, maybe this is a little too soon to say. I think Season 13 is probably the best update we've gotten since Season 6. Now, I know the bar was pretty low between Season 6 to now, but in this video, I think it'd be nice to be a little bit more positive about the game, because I think with this update that we got last week, it really did bring something for everyone to enjoy. So don't get me wrong, there has been some great stuff added since Season 6, such as the raid voyages. I really am enjoying those. Captaincy overall, I think, is a great addition to the world of Sea of Thieves, but it was kind of for a boring update because a lot of it's just kind of like cosmetics and stats, not really like new gameplay features. So it's one of those like nice to haves, but not really a exciting update, in my opinion. And then other stuff, of course, like the new weapons from Season 12 or the Skull of Siren Song for people that enjoy that. We've had lots of things added over the last few years, but really I think Season 6 was my last big favorite update where I really enjoyed everything that they added, and I think Season 13 reminds me of that. Like Season 6, I feel like Season 13 brought a little bit of something for everyone to enjoy. With this update, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts on all the different features that we gotten, every feature is not going to appeal to everyone. But I think the reason why Season 13 works is that the groups that they're targeting are covering a wide amount of the player base. So if you don't like one of the things that are added this season, you probably like the other thing added, is kind of my thought on this. So I'm sure most of you, if you're watching this video, probably already know what was added in Season 13. If you don't, there's tons of videos I did last week about it. I'll leave some linked on here if you want to watch that. But as a quick recap, we got a new world event with the Burning Blade, where it's the first world event that basically when you finish, you get to take over the world event and become it yourself, which is a really cool concept. It would be really awesome to see that kind of moved forward in other areas. We kind of have that little bit of Sea Forts. If you think about a Sea Fort, when you finish it, the Sea Fort's kind of yours, but usually not too many players will like come and attack it and stuff, so it's not really the same as the Burning Blade. But I could totally see in the future maybe like you take over like a whole skeleton camp and now you have a skeleton army and maybe you can put your treasure in the vault or whatever the case may be. I think giving world events like an even more unique reward other than some very valuable treasure is a really great idea. With the Burning Blade, it's a fun world event to do when it's the AI controlled enemies and stuff and you're fighting that. I think it's challenging enough to do without being overwhelming when it's just the AI controlled by itself. Obviously, when you get player controlled, it's, it could be whatever the case may be. It could be really hard, it could be really easy. But the Burning Blade is just super cool looking. I love just the size of it and looking at it from a distance where you have like a little ship next to it and then you have this giant ship with the flaming torch at the top and everything just looks really great. I do kind of wish we had the same thing from the concept art that they showed during the preview event, where you have like the lava flowing underneath it and surrounding the base of the hole into the water. I think that would have been really cool and a nice touch, but I get from practical reasons they probably didn't want to do that. But regardless, just even exploring the Burning Blade I think is really cool, seeing like the statue room, there's the journal that you can go and read and get accommodation done, just seeing like the little hammocks in there. It's really cool to have a ship that has hammocks as beds. I thought that was fun. Just the entire size is incredible. And then, of course, when you take over the ship, is a really cool experience just being in charge of that entire thing. You have the skeleton crew that's helping you. I wouldn't say they're especially useful, at least in my experience. I feel like they miss a lot of the shots they take at player ships around us, and they are good at repairing the ship, which is the best part about them, but because they can't bucket, it's kind of like only doing half the work, essentially. And it really leads to my thought that this event is not for solo players. And as a lot of you know, I mainly play the game solo, and I'm sure a lot of you that are watching this play the game solo primarily. Not to say you never play with friends, but I'm talking about the majority of your playtime. The Burning Blade is like an oversized galleon, so controlling a galleon by yourself as a solo player is already hard enough. Trying to do it in this giant ship is even harder. The skeletons do help some with the shooting, especially with the repairing, but in other aspects like, say, managing sails, just even lowering the sails, and especially getting the anchor up, is very difficult as a solo player, from my experience. Not to say it's impossible to control the Burning Blade, but you kind of have to hope that you're going against players that aren't as good. if you're going to be controlling this. If you get someone that's just of average skill, I feel like they can probably take out the Burning Blade if you're by yourself on this. With that said though, I think if you're a 2-person crew or above, you'll probably do just fine with this. But really it's just the ship is too big to do anything. Like if you're trying to steer the ship, shoot cannons, and watch for borders, you're gonna struggle. One of the things that I'm kind of disappointed I didn't see when I was conquering the Burning Blade is the Burning Blade of Souls. That I just didn't see when I finished and completed it, but I did find the Obsidian Ashen Skulls, and those are really great. I really like those a lot. Like we talked about in last week's video, it does fire damage as well as it does a little bit of a knockback effect, kind of similar to the Windcaller, but just a bit reduced. And that was actually pretty useful when I was fighting other players. I was thinking though, with the Burning Blade of Souls, it'd be kind of cool if instead of it being like a treasure item that you pick up, if instead when you're the crew of the Burning Blade, it just enhanced your sword that you already had and then gave it like a fire effect or something. And then I thought if you have that, another thing that would be cool is if you have the Burning Blade of Souls, you could basically command the skeletons to do stuff. Because I think if you're able to command them to do certain actions around the ship, that'd be a lot more helpful. Even if it was just like a prioritization thing. So if I could prioritize them to stand near the ladders to try to stop any borders, that would be really great. Or if I can tell them, okay, focus on cannons or focus on repairing. Those would be really helpful in my mind in terms of just managing your crew. And I think that would especially help being a solo player to do that. Another feature of the Burning Blade is the Ashen Roar. I did get to use it once or twice. I didn't hit anyone with it yet, but I was in a battle with another crew using the Burning Blade, and I saw the Ashen Roar just go over my ship and also just completely destroy another ship. And that was really cool to see. Even on the receiving end of it, it's a really exciting moment just to see that giant ship just launching all of its weapons at you. Overall, I think the Burning Blade is great. I think it's a unique world event. It's not just like a copycat of other stuff that we've already had. It's really something original in the game, which is great. But it really is not meant for solo players. I think if you want to be effective with this, you have to be in a trio or a squad. At bare minimum, a duo, but playing as a solo is just very difficult, especially right now while everyone wants to get a hold of the Burning Blade. It is just super sweaty in the game right now, and I feel like I kind of have to talk about this. There's two big problems with the Burning Blade currently. I hope it gets resolved, either on its own naturally or if Rare steps in and does something about it. There's one side of the player base that's using exploits to increase the rituals a lot faster and kind of break the whole design of getting the Burning Blade and doing the skeleton camps and everything. So that's very frustrating on its own because they're essentially just cheating and artificially inflating their numbers, getting accommodations done faster, whatever the case may be. And it just kind of ruins the spirit of the game in my opinion. I've seen a lot of talk online that people don't really care about people using exploits as long as it's not cheats, you know, that change their gameplay essentially in terms of like their PvP gameplay. But to me, I think it's a big deal, especially when you consider like the Emissary Ledger. There are people using this to increase their Emissary Ledger extremely high for the Reaper's Bones. So if they're doing that, then anyone that is just a normal player playing doesn't really stand much of a chance doing the Emissary Ledger because it's going to be completely skewed off by these people exploiting. And just based off what I'm seeing online, whether it's Reddit or Twitter and stuff, a lot of people seem to be doing this exploit more than just like the typical exploit that happens in the game. I think that's all bad, and I think you're just kind of a loser if you can't just play the game normally and be successful that way. The other type of players that seem to be common with the Burning Blade this past week since we've gotten the release of Season 13 is basically everyone that was in Hourglass mode has now ported over to the Burning Blade. Which kind of does make sense because it is somewhat designed to have the similar feel to Hourglass, like having the streak and really just being more targeted at PvP. Even a lot of the commendations and rewards for doing the Burning Blade require you to have already gotten the Skeleton Curse, which I think is really annoying. And maybe we'll talk about that in a future video. But it is kind of annoying that a lot of the rewards for doing the Burning Blade event require you to do a whole nother thing that you might not be that interested in. Going back to these type of players, it is difficult, especially as a solo player, to go up against, you know, duo, trio, or squad of these PvP players that, they're wearing the gold skeleton or gold phantom curse and stuff. So they ate a ton of hours of hourglass and got a bunch of wins and everything. And then you're trying to go up against them just so you can get this burning blade. For me, I'm able to stand my own a little bit, but I wasn't able to take the burning blade from any of these people yet. I honestly didn't really care too much. A lot of the battles I kind of just was like, oh, someone's already conquered it, see ya. And I kind of just left it alone, because part of it's just a time thing. I don't really want to do a time sink for the burning blade right now. The other part of this is, other than the exploits, there are people just straight out cheating for PvP gameplay. And I'm seeing lots of clips online, people do like teleporting across the ships and all sorts of stuff just to kind of cheat and make it so that they can keep the burning blade, and probably do the exploits as well as, cheating with the PvP. So it's a big problem, and honestly, this might be a hot take. I find that the people from Hourglass typically are the most toxic players in Sea of Thieves. If you're someone that really likes Hourglass, I'm not trying to call you out right now. I'm sure there's tons of people that aren't like that enjoy Hourglass. And, there's occasions where I enjoy Hourglass. But basically anyone that I encountered with the Skeleton Curse or the Ghost Curse this past weekend, super toxic. And this isn't me trying to say like, oh, my feelings got hurt, they hurt my feelings. This is me kind of just talking about what the current state of Sea of Thieves is with Season 13. But for me personally, when I'm looking at what is a good update to the game, I'm not really considering people cheating in the game or people doing exploits, one, because I think the exploits are going to get fixed. I think the cheating will probably get resolved, hopefully, but Rare's track record on patching this stuff is not great. And then honestly, the toxic players, I don't blame Rare at all for that, because that's just people being jerks. So if we just look at the Burning Blade event on its own and take those people and what they're doing out of the equation, this event is a great update. I think a lot of people are going to love it, and I'm hoping that it dies down a little bit so that players that aren't as skilled or people that are playing solo have a better chance at enjoying this. Now, one of the things I was annoyed about with the Burning Blade is that you can't really tuck on the Burning Blade. I had this one encounter and I thought, okay, let me go to the skeleton camp because I know they're going to be there in a moment, because that's kind of where the area they were at. So I went there to go tuck at the skeleton camp, and then I realized anytime a player is close to the Burning Blade, it starts playing the music, and the music doesn't stop. And that is just very frustrating because it basically just tipped them off. It's worse than the mermaids, honestly. At least the mermaids, you can hope that they'll miss it. This, there's no way of missing it. They were completely spooked by the whole thing. They just decided to leave, and there wasn't really much I could do about that. And that's just very disappointing, because if it had the ability to tuck on the Burning Blade or at the skeleton camps, that would just make this so much better and allow for more play styles to be achieved with the Burning Blade. Especially with how much of a hit tucking got with Season 11 and the diving mechanic and everything, which I know some people were going to push back on. I might talk about it in the future video. Tucking really has been significantly hurt by a lot of the recent changes that Sea of Thieves has done. They could have easily just thrown us a bone by not having a reveal that we are there. The Burning Blade and that whole thing would have been a perfect candidate for like a epic tucking adventure. And sadly, that's just really not going to be the case with this. I feel like the only reason they did this is, one, because it's kind of epic when you're going up against the Burning Blade and the music starts playing. That's all cool and stuff. They could maybe change it so that maybe it only reacts if there's another ship or something. I'd be kind of more in favor of that. The other idea that I had that probably is the main reason they did this is that if you are the crew of the Burning Blade and you're inside the skeleton camp at the bottom, they probably wanted to make sure that you had at least a fighting chance to know that someone was up there. My counter argument to that is, what about the people that aren't the Burning Blade and are down in the skeleton camp and have someone come up and attack them? Why would the Burning Blade be any different than any other ship for that purpose? If there's anything to change with the Burning Blade, that would be it. I would like to see them get rid of that in the future, if possible. Speaking of music cues though, I think the music for Season 13 is phenomenal. Whether it's the title screen or when you're engaging Flameheart to fight, all of it that they did this season is great. Honestly, I think most of the music that Sea of Thieves does is pretty awesome in general, so it's usually something I don't really talk about, because it's kind of just, they set the standard so high that it's kind of a given that the music's going to be so good. But I just wanted to mention it here because we were already kind of talking about music cues and everything. So yeah, they did a great job as always. But what really saved the season for me is the other big feature of Season 13, and that's skeleton camps. I was honestly a little bit surprised. I put a poll out last week when the season released and asked basically what everyone was most excited about with the new season. And some of those questions were, obviously the Burning Blade, which we just talked about. I put skeleton camps, wielding the Burning Blade of Souls, or earning new cosmetics. And I was actually kind of surprised that raiding skeleton camps was lower than the new cosmetics, because I really thought that a lot of people would be excited about the skeleton camps. Now don't get me wrong, we got some really great cosmetics this update, and I'll talk about that later on in this video. But the skeleton camps, I thought, were honestly the best part of this whole update. Obviously the Burning Blade is the flashy, cool, ooh look, a giant warship in the game. But the skeleton camps I think is really where the replayable value of this update comes from. And honestly, this was a pretty good poll. I mean, 1.1 thousand votes for this currently. That's a pretty good sample size to see where the community is feeling about this. And I'm a little bit surprised that only 9% found the skeleton camps as their most excited thing. Because for me personally, that was what I was most excited for. Which isn't too surprising, especially when we go back to where this video all started and me talking about Season 6 being the last great update. Skeleton camps are literally just the new version of Sea Forts. And while I think it's too early to say, arguably, skeleton camps are far more unique and interesting than Sea Forts. Don't get me wrong, I love Sea Forts, I love the environment of them, being able to kind of almost play house and take over the island when you complete it, and just kind of chill on there, cook some food, whatever. But skeleton camps on the other hand are just really cool. I like the vibe of all of them, they're all pretty unique, and then when you're actually doing the event, you have the whole puzzle aspect of it with the constellations. At first I wasn't sure if I was going to like them, but I actually think they're really fun and they're really fast to do once you learn the secret. I can kind of just, do it within a few minutes and be done. And then you have a little bit of PvE with some obsidian skeletons, which, they're not any new enemies, but they're a nice reskin of existing skeletons that we have in the game. It feels a little bit more fresh than just, plopping in regular skeletons in there. And yeah, I think it's great. The only thing that doesn't feel great about skeleton camps is just the rewards. I think, obviously I understand their idea of only have to take one trip to your ship, but in my opinion, just kind of looking at it inside the vault, it feels like a waste of time sometimes if you're not thinking about how much gold it's actually getting you. When you only see 3 treasure items in there, or when you just do the emergent one where you only get the Orb of Secrets, it feels disappointing, but I think they make up for it a little bit because getting the Orb of Secrets and kind of having it like crack and like glow and everything is a pretty cool little cinematic. So I like that they added that little touch. There's not really much for me to say that's bad about the skeleton camps. I would love to see them get a little bit of buff and reward in the future, but other than that, I think it's great. And that's honestly what I've spent most of my time doing. I've done a handful of battles fighting other players with the Burning Blade, and I've sailed once as the Burning Blade. But really the main thing that I've been doing with Season 13, other than making videos and stuff, is skeleton camps. I've done a bunch of them. I've gone to every island and seen every single one of them and done a good amount of the commendations and stuff. So I'm just really enjoying it, and it's definitely my favorite addition to the game in the last several years. Honestly, probably since Sea Forts, if we're being completely honest. I can't really think of anything since Sea Forts were added that I enjoyed more than this. But I'm sure in the comments below there's going to be lots of disagreement saying that I'm dumb for thinking skeleton camps are the best thing added in the last few years. So feel free to let me know if you disagree, and let me know what you enjoyed more with this season update, or if you don't like Season 13. I'd love to hear that too, because really all I've heard is positive feedback about Season 13, but I'm sure there's people out there that don't like this kind of update and prefer stuff like what we got with Season 12 or Season 11. Finally, the last real main thing that we got with this update was new cosmetics. Now, most of the time I probably wouldn't be talking about new cosmetics in a video like this, because while cosmetics are important to the game, I wouldn't say they're as important as gameplay features or updates and changes and stuff. But I think it's significant this time because I think we got some really great cosmetics, not only in the Porium or the Season Pass, but also just earnable cosmetics that are locked behind commendations. And we talked about this concept when we talked about the premium curses that they were starting in Season 12. Cosmetics with commendations have inherent value because they're in some way more difficult to earn than just buying the cosmetics or just getting it from the Season Pass. With Season 13, they reskinned one of my favorite ship sets in the game with the Bone Crusher set, and I was really excited for that. I made a video talking about how to get that set, and they gave us a new set for the Burning Blade. We got a few new trinkets and some ship decorations and stuff, which has been the first time they added anything to that captaincy stuff since Season 8, so it's been a long time coming for this stuff. So while most of the time for a season update, cosmetics wouldn't be as significant of a topic to talk about, I really think they did a great job giving us a lot of value and a lot of things to try to strive for with these new cosmetics. So while I'm a little surprised that it did up better than the skeleton camps, I'm not too surprised that people are excited about having something to work towards now. So to wrap up, I think Season 13 is a great update and something that the game desperately needed. Are there issues with Season 13 currently? Yes, but I'm so happy to say right now that the issue with Sea of Thieves with this recent update is not a lack of content, it's just smaller issues that will need to be patched in the future, like the people exploiting or cheating. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you have to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what are your thoughts on Season 13 and how are you feeling about everything that was added. But that's all I have for this video. Definitely check out some of these other videos that I'll have linked on screen, but that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye y'all.